pulled into my daughter's parking lot. I grabbed my granddaughter. Um, we had just got her a nice, playhouse toy, one of those big Barbie houses or something. So I basically took that and in my left hand and picked her up in my right hand and just went up 2 flights of stairs and walked into my daughter's appointment after my wife, apartment, sorry, not appointment. So my wife walked in, I walked in behind her. I set the playset down on the ground to my left and just dropped my granddaughter straight down to the ground in front of me, stood up and got a little fuzzy headed, and that's all she wrote. Apparently I fell over dead in the corner.
Wow.
I had come to find out it was a Widowmaker cardiac arrest. So, it's just one of those things that nobody saw coming.
Right.
So, from what my wife explains to me is she had gone to the restroom and came out, saw me about probably 60, 70 seconds later, about a minute and a half tops. I was just laying in the corner. Like I just slid down the corner of the entryway and with the door open and was just laying there, eyes wide open and just dead.
Wow. And you had no previous, issues with your heart?
No.
To this that you knew of? Right?
No.
Right. I mean, other than that, you're a pretty healthy guy. You spent, like I said in the intro, you spent 10 years in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And you were also a cop for 10 years or for a certain amount of time, or no?
During that same period.
Same period?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're in good shape generally.
Yeah. Generally speaking. Yeah.
So at that point, you were on the ground laying there and you had an experience, or did anything happen in between you falling and the experience? Like, did you ever wake up at any point in time, or you just went straight into it?
I just went straight into it.
Okay.
There wasn't any like, whoa, what happened or anything. It was just like straight from being here to there.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about it. What happened first?
Well, so from my point of view, I was basically, how it was explained to me is I was pulled into the living room and then they started CPR compressions and called 911.
911, what city, please?
I'm sorry, my dad is not responding.
Okay, what's the address?
It's 656 Fairbanks Street, apartment 6A. He's going to sleep, please.
All right.
Please, he's not breathing. He's not breathing.
Okay, I need you to take a deep breath. I'm going to give you some instructions, but I got to get the address.
Okay.
Give me the address.
During this process, I found myself not really from there to when the paramedics arrived was about 12 minutes. So what I remember is I had an out-of-body experience. So basically I remember being in the room watching paramedics working on my body, not realizing it was myself, just kind of like, oh, look at this and all this stuff going on. I experienced a very peaceful moment. I didn't, the concept of time wasn't there. It could have been a minute, could have been 20 minutes. I don't even know. Right. So I remember as the paramedics worked on me, just, looking around the room, during that process, I made eye contact with my granddaughter on the couch.
Oh, okay. Tell me about that.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I look back now and I'm like, I thought it was just, she was just looking in the direction, but I intentionally remember her and I making eye contact. And it was within that same period that all this chaos was going on, that my wife was in the process of trying to, keep the environment calm and everything. And my granddaughter asked my wife, is Papa going to be okay? And, she said, well, we're doing the best we can. We're working on it.
Oh, my sweet husband, we love you so much, baby. Come on. You're good. We got you. We got you, my love.
Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure we're going 2 inches deep, okay? We want the chest to come all the way up between compressions as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't see anything. I need you guys to tell me, okay? Has he started to breathe?
Yeah, he's starting to breathe. He's turning red. You can make sure he's not falling.
Look at him very closely and tell me exactly what you see or hear him doing.
And then my granddaughter tells my wife, oh, it's okay. Papa's just sleeping. So it was kind of like, it was right at that timing, of all that happening and all that stuff going on. And during the process of this experience, I was gone complete time for a little bit over 80 minutes.
Okay.
So, that's kind of hard to grasp, 80 minutes, because I can sit back and it seems like the experiences that I had could have just been minutes. It wasn't like it was
No concept.
almost, 80 minutes, I'm just hanging out. The concept of time just, it wasn't there.
No time space, right? There's
Yeah.
a whole different reality. So
Yeah.
wow.
And during that time, and after that initial contact with my granddaughter and watching the first responders, I found myself kind of like in kind of like ascending. So it was a very slow ascension. It was, I was in like this pink type cloud. It's kind of like a fog maybe, but it
Did
was
you
pink.
feel yourself to like ascending through your roof, like your ceiling and so on and so forth, or did
No.
you cut straight to cloud?
I straight to the cloud.
Okay.
So I didn't, I went from like being like right in there in the living room, like ceiling height, to this next place.
Okay.
So during that process, I could see in the clouds 3 silhouettes, and the silhouettes were of like human form but with wings, so I assumed that they were angels, just going in a circular pattern. There was 3 of them, and during that experience and recognizing that, I basically discovered that there was another being with me. It was a young woman,
Like next to you, or
kind of like in front of me. She just came out and just kind of like stood in front of me, but float. I stood, float. It just being in front of me, right?
right?
So, and she had long red hair, and I always make fun of my nose because you can tell who my dad is and who my brother is based on my nose, and this woman had my nose. So back in 1973, I had a sister who was stillborn. So, and she was born with red hair and the same type of characteristics, and this person had those. So I believed that it was her that came to me. And during this process, basically all this stuff going on, the silhouettes and the clouds were still there. Basically, she told me my job on Earth wasn't done. Didn't give me much of an explanation. She just said I had to protect people, and that it just wasn't finished for me.
So she had like long red flowing hair.
Yes.
Yeah, and your nose.
Yeah.
And you figure she was about how old?
She looked like she was in her 20s or 30s. I don't really, I've never seen her before. So, I don't know because, like I said, I was only 2 years old when she was born.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And, the way I described her was, my mom says, was exactly how she remembers her when she was born, just the long red hair and the facial features and that kind of thing. So, my assumption was that this could be my sister. So during that process, I remember communicating, like asking, if this person knew my purpose, or, what was I supposed to do? What was the next step? And basically, I was just told it wasn't my time, that
No details, right?
yeah, no details. It was
Yeah.
just kind of like, okay.
Because I hear
And
that all the time. You hear these amazing stories, and often when they're told to, it's not your time, it's time to go back, you've got things to do, but then they don't get the actual mission, like
Right.
they're not told. So they come back with this mysterious, what am I supposed to do? And I gather there must be a reason for that. They don't, just want to keep you in suspense or anything. I guess you have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, I'm still unwrapping. It's probably something that, I really need to be intentional about, and, try to keep remembering more details. And, it wasn't until about 8 months afterwards that I started, opening up and discovering more and remembering more. And
You didn't remember it all at once? It came in
no,
fragments?
came in fragments. So, I considered going into hypnosis and stuff like that to try to help, unpack that information. And, have been learning breathing techniques, and, kind of like just immersing myself into some meditation and
Going
some,
within. Yeah,
just trying to work on myself,
that's good.
know.
Yeah. Well, that's where the answers lay, right?
Yeah.
It's all within. So really interesting. Also, just with regards to the angelic figures that you saw circling above you, can you describe what they look like? Did they have faces? Were they light beings? Did they look like they were 20 feet tall or 6 feet
So,
tall?
so from my perspective, they were above me. I don't really know how far, but they were very large silhouettes. So I didn't see any kind of specific details,
Right.
but I did see, wingspan, and, them in the clouds. And I presume that they were all three were male.
Mhm.
And I don't have any other details beyond that on those
No,
three, because it just seemed like all my attention went from that to this other person, or
Yeah.
this being that I was having a conversation with.
And in that
it,
conversation, were you guys speaking like telepathically? Was it all in thoughts?
I think it was just a, communication. Just
Yeah. Like you just knew what was being said. You felt what
yeah,
was being
absolutely.
said. Yeah.
Mhm.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, and then what happened after that?
Well, right after that, I just got suddenly blown back awake. It's kind of hard to describe. Then after that part, I found myself in the parking lot, up
Mhm.
like probably 30 to 40 feet above the vehicles. I could see my wife talking to somebody.
Right.
And apparently it was state troopers had just arrived, and they were basically talking to her about, they're going to call it. They weren't going to, continue. I saw myself come out down the stairwell, on the stretcher.
Oh,
There
really?
was a medic on the stretcher with me, performing CPR.
Mhm.
They brought me out, and I witnessed all this. And then I saw my wife continuing talking to the state trooper. I could identify where the vehicles were, the ambulance, the fire trucks, how many were there,
Right.
all the details that I would never have known,
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I just came back in the ambulance like immediately, probably at that same time, and they yelled out of the back of the ambulance that I was back,
Okay.
and surprised everybody. And
Mhm.
and that was the first time that I came back. So that was kind of like all I remember from that experience, is just waking up from from nothing at the time,
Mhm.
to waking up in an ambulance, not knowing what was going on.
When you first woke up, I mean, you may not remember, but I'm curious, like, how much of the experience did you remember when you first woke up that first time, or was it not even in your
Absolutely
mind?
not.
Nothing. Okay, yeah, it was
Nothing.
just like panic time. Yeah.
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 Were you in a panic when you woke up, or what was your state?
Not the first time. The first time was, I believe, just probably about 20 or 30 seconds
That
before.
you woke up for? Mhm.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then I was gone again.
Wow.
And so I don't remember much except seeing lights and hearing voices and sounds. And then it went black again, went
Okay.
dark.
Yeah.
And then I came back another time.
Mhm.
And this time I was back for a little bit longer. And I remember hearing voices. I remember saying some words about more time and wanting to be better, apologize for not doing a
Okay.
better job in
That you
life.
were vocalizing this now in the ambulance?
Yes, out loud.
Okay. Wow. To whom?
To whomever,
Was it
the
whoever
powers
was
that
there?
be.
Mhm.
Yeah, the powers that be, God.
I see.
Um,
Okay. Mm.
Then I went away again. I died a third time. So, and then I don't remember anything. And then I came back in the ambulance right as we got to the ER.
Mhm.
And that was just for a split second apparently. And then the final time was in the ER, and I just came back for good this time. And I just remember waking up, looking at the doctor, looking at my wife, my parents just sitting there, and then went straight back into emergency surgery,
Wow.
not
And
even knowing what was going on.
yeah, I bet you were pretty lost at that point. Do you think that your experience is sort of spanned out across the three, or is it just everything happened in the first one, or is there no way of really knowing?
In my opinion, I think it all happened during that first long-term period.
Okay.
Because I think it was just, if there was something that I experienced during those other times, I do not have any kind of recollection of.
Okay. Have you ever wondered why, you didn't have an experience the other two times, or has that ever crossed your mind? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's crossed my mind, like what was going on, what happened, and
Could it be possible that they pumped you full of meds at that point, and maybe that could be why?
probably I had 2 adrenaline shots and
Wow.
had been defibrillated 9 times.
Oh,
So it was
I can't even
it was,
imagine the amount of pain that you were in, especially after the surgery and everything.
Yeah.
Like just after the compressions alone, people are in so much pain right after that.
yeah.
In what ways do you think this whole experience changed your life? I know it's still fairly recent for you, but has there been any significant, this is different since the incident?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the first 6 months, I would just went through the process of healing. It was, I had some mental health issues,
Mhm.
Angry, not understanding why I came back. Yeah. So, it was just one of those things where I felt like maybe I should have just died, and
Oh,
that should have been that. So, I struggled for about 6 to 8 months with that whole mental health side of things, no understanding why. From my experience, the feeling that I can say I experienced was it's an amazing concept, and it's hard to describe. I can say that it was peaceful, and the concept of time wasn't there. There was no emotions. It was just bliss.
yeah.
And I could,
Wow.
and I can say that with 100% validation that, that occurred. And
Yeah.
when I came back, well, the first 4 months was just recovery because I could barely walk. It felt like I got hit by a truck.
Wow. That.
I had, all that CPR for, 80 minutes, the defibrillations and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was in so much pain, I couldn't even get myself up out of bed.
Well,
So
for sure, that's got to take a major toll on your system.
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
and this all happened right before COVID, then the pandemic hit. So, I got a lot of home time in 2020.
I know.
So, it's
count
one
your
of
lucky stars that this happened the way it did, and that it happened prior to COVID, because who knows
Oh,
what
yeah.
would have happened at that point, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Yeah, everything aligned for the right reasons. And then, coming out of that physical pain, I started, just wondering why. And, if I couldn't get the answer from the other side, like I thought,
Mhm.
you know, I may have more information. I just haven't, unpacked it yet.
Okay.
So, 6 months, maybe 7. I just, like I said, struggles with some mental health issues.
Mhm.
A couple times I felt like just, finishing the job, if you will,
Okay.
just got really depressed and, didn't want to live.
Yeah.
And, um, so I just started, working on myself and, reading some books, listening to some podcasts, finding people such as yourself that, do this amazing stuff, and just kind of immerse myself into this kind of, near-death experience stuff.
Well, I
And
think what you're doing is fantastic because no doubt, and I'm sure you're well aware, there'll be people that see this, and that have questions. And just even if it's just to know that there's another person that had a similar experience, I'm sure it makes people feel better and answer some questions for them.
yeah, yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think it's fantastic that you're putting yourself out there. It's a very personal thing. I realize that and I appreciate it very much. Your I'm curious about your religious beliefs before this all happened and after. Was there any or?
So I grew up Southern Baptist,
Mhm. Okay.
raised in the church, went to church every week, 3 times a week, you know, without missing it. That's just how
Mhm.
my family was raised. And, I stayed affiliated with the church after that,
Mhm.
just not as regular. Um, my
You
wife
feel
and
it
I,
changed a little bit or
oh
something
yeah, yeah,
shifted?
so I've shifted. I still believe in the higher power. I still
Mhm.
believe that God exists and the miracles do happen.
Right.
Um, it's just more like I want to connect with people on a personal level,
Mhm.
not some kind of organized type, religious type organization
Mhm.
label. I want
Right.
to, you know, and during this whole transformation is, I feel more connected to people. Um, I kind of just it's like putting a book on a shelf, as
Mhm.
far as like drama filled type circumstances, you know, purging your life of things that are unnecessary. It really makes you um, come to terms with what matters and what doesn't.
Yeah.
I do identify my faith as Christianity. So,
Mhm.
there are some times where, sometimes my experience might not be agreeable with people that are in,
Yeah.
certain religious aspects of, you know, denominations and stuff like that.
Right.
And what I found is it's all about my experience and what I bring out of it and what I want to present to people.
Mhm.
Kind of like doing this interview is totally 100% out of my comfort zone. So, you know, I I've been wanting to do it. I've been wanting to do it, and the opportunity presented itself, and here I am. And I might not have the most clear definitions and directions of my experience, but
Yeah, well,
as I
this is why we're partly why we're talking about it. It's about exploring and
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
exploring the gems and well, all the details really. I think you were saying that you sort of had a bit of a shift, I guess, after this happened in terms of, you know, being that, having that feeling of connectedness and that being a top priority is what I'm getting from you. Do you remember like the first person you spoke to about this experience? Like, did you, I'm sure you must have talked to somebody aside from me about this, right?
Well, so it took me
Yeah,
a long time to talk to somebody.
right.
So, the first person, of course, I talked to is my wife. I explained that to her because I feel like, society is full of judgmental people.
Yeah.
And my wife is, she's my person I trust the most and can confide in. And I had the conversation with her, and she just thought it was amazing. And she has been nothing but encouraging and has encouraged me to share it.
Mhm.
So over time, especially this year, 2021, I find myself getting to the point where I'm comfortable discussing it with people that I just barely met, or something will come up, about the cardiac arrest, or, somebody will bring up, hey, what's this picture about on your from the American Heart Association on your office wall? And I'll explain to them what happened. So it's gotten easier. And the more I describe it, I find myself between that talking about it, the meditation, the self-care, more and more details are coming out.
Yeah. So yeah, you find you get more details the more you meditate, little things come up.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah. Going within, that's like I said earlier, it's where the answers lay. And if there's anything to remember, that's where it's going to be. Did you have any strange reactions from people when talking about this? I mean, your
Well,
wife gave you a great reaction, and
oh yeah. So I always say there's two types of people that want it. There's those that want to hear about it, and when I talk to them a little bit, they're like, "Tell me more."
right.
And then there's the people who look like a deer in the headlights that are just like, I'm gonna leave now. So there's some people that just get totally creeped out about it. So I haven't found anybody in the middle. It's just one or the other from my interactions over the last year. So
Yeah, other NDEers talk about having developed newfound abilities and stuff, and it's not always right away. So if you haven't already, you might have something to look forward to, John.
yeah, well, I haven't. So I did have an experience over the last year, 3 times, and it happened twice at my home and once in Florida when I was on vacation, where I've communicated with a voice, and I haven't communicated back. So maybe I stifled it, but the first time was in my home, laying in bed. I couldn't sleep, as I have really terrible insomnia since this happened. I'm up between 1 and 3 in the morning every night. I heard a voice, and the voice said, "Hi, John," and it came out of my closet.
Okay.
And it was just like, it creeped
Was it
me
a
out.
female or a male voice?
It was a female voice.
Okay.
And and I've told my family about this, and when it's happened, and then it happened again about 3 months later. And then this last March, I was in Florida, visiting my family. We're staying in a hotel, and I'm just getting ready for bed, and the same voice said, "Hey, John."
Okay.
And I was just put the covers over my head and just kind of ignored it. But
Right.
it's just one of those things where I feel like that there is a connection with something, but I haven't embraced it fully yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a very similar thing with the "Hey, John." It was a female voice, but when it happened to me, it was almost like she was right there.
Mm.
It was loud, but not alarming. It was actually quite soothing. The voice was very soft, but it was loud enough, like I thought my whole house would hear it, But of course, I was the only one that heard it.
Well, it's one of these experiences that I tell people, when people find out that I was gone for 80 minutes, a lot of people are skeptical,
Right.
because this just doesn't make sense. And when I recovered, the doctors told me that I had I had the event called return of spontaneous circulation, which
Of
is,
course, yeah, which is like we don't have a name for it.
right, right. So, it went from like I had total vein collapse, had to get an IO drilled into my shin, into my bone marrow to administer medications and stuff like that, and
That sounds painful.
Yeah. When it was removed, I was awake, and it was painful.
Wow.
So, I remember sitting in the ICU, and the little nurse had to grab it with both hands and just totally twist it out of my chin. And she's like, "Oh, this is going to hurt." Yeah, it was one of those top 3 pains I've ever experienced.
Oh yeah.
So,
Goodness.
yeah, it's just one of those things where, I just found the experience amazing, and I want to continue sharing and learning more about this side of things, and being in group now of near-death experiences, it's kind of like very interesting to me. And, you know, it's just, there's so much information.
Yeah, and
And,
it's got to be so nice that you can relate to other things people are saying and vice versa on there. It's nice to connect.
you know,
Yeah, that's cool. Maybe it'll even you know, inspire some new memories from this. You know, meditation though. You said you sort of dabbled a bit with meditation. Are you still doing that?
yeah, I don't do it as much as I want to, but it's a work in progress. So I'm working on it. You know, I work with a couple people that are, you know, do deep breathing techniques. And I had one person coach me to a position of kind of like sleep paralysis
Okay,
through
now you're
breathing.
talking my language. Yeah.
So, you know, I experienced that, and she was able to work with me and get me to a point where I could remember this, you know, the situation that happened. I could go back to that moment. And
Yeah.
and she was working with me to learn how to do that. So whenever I choose to do something like that, that I can go back and experience that same type of feeling.
Mhm.
And you know, I have not had an out of body experience because of that or anything, but I've had an experience of, you know, I've never had sleep paralysis before, but
A
the
little
feeling
scary
I
at first,
got
no?
was just scary and amazing.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, the capacity of our brain and the abilities of it are just so far undiscovered. And
Oh
you
yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
think we have so much potential as humans,
Mm.
you know, living or, you know, human bodies, you know, spiritual beings live in that human existence, if you
Mhm.
will, and connecting on not on a whole nother level. It's just amazing.
Yeah, you
um,
said it.
and
Yeah.
I'm going to continue to develop that and work with people, and you know, try to uncover more about what happened specifically to my experience, because I firmly believe that there's more. And
Mhm.
and I think I'm just barely tapping into the experience.
Yeah, it's all new. It's all, yeah, I'm sure. And it's great that you're exploring it. And like sleep paralysis, wow, that it sounds scary. It's scary at first when you don't know what's going on. But then, as a lot of people that would I'm sure agree, it becomes addictive. It becomes something you seek out, and you get it in almost every meditation if you want. I mean, that's what I go for now, sleep paralysis. I love
Mm,
it because for me, the second that your entire body is in sleep paralysis, even when you're just in like a void and your body's completely paralyzed, it feels like you're floating already. Like
mhm.
it's such a beautiful, amazing feeling. And I don't know, that's where you get the messages, that's where you get, you know, your inspiration, all kinds of things.
Oh
Highly
yeah,
recommend.
it's
Yeah.
definitely something I'm
Mm.
work in progress, and I'm going to be more intentional with that kind of stuff. So,
Good stuff, good stuff.
you know,
Well, John, it's been a real slice talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's been super, super interesting. I hope to maybe even speak to you again in the future. If you have any new, you know, new things that come up that you want to share, please, by all means, come and share it with us. We'd be happy to have you. Thank
yeah,
you
I sure
so, so
will.
much.
And I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you so much. I put out into the universe with some support from some of my friends, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so amazing! Please
Oh,
send us
good.
the link." So you know,
Fantastic.
hopefully I'll help grow your YouTube channel a little bit more,
Oh,
and
I would love
get
that.
you some exposure. And you know,
Wonderful.
keep doing what you're doing, John. It's very
Thank
important
you.
work, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I do appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. God bless you and have a wonderful holiday.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Thanks.